I guess.
We are on the YouTube, everybody.
Now we're live on YouTube. Before, what about all those things we just said? That's never going to be out on YouTube now.
We save our most brilliant stuff for when the people aren't on, don't we?
It's what we do. It's what we do.
So I'm gonna just go ahead and put the link up on the Twitter. There we go. And then we're Pat and I were talking, Ray. We're gonna come right out of the box with some important stuff today. First of all, long distance dedication. David Giesinger, extraordinary lawyer, aka Kid Delicious, wants to know if a hot dog is a sandwich or a taco. Can I go with none? First of all, hold on a second. I know. Look, this is a general broad statement, but also an attack on Pat. First of all, if you put ketchup on it, it's not food. I don't care what you call it. Okay.
There's nothing that's not made better with ketchup.
That's disgusting. Ketchup on a hot dog may be okay, but I've seen you put ketchup on brats, Pat, and I hate to call you out. That is filthy and nasty.
All it is a different kind of sausage. That's casing and pig parts. That's all it is, man. Casing nasty. And pig parts, just bigger and different consistency.
Straight up nasty. But I don't know. I don't know if a hot dog is a sandwich or a taco. I just know I've taken to cooking them in my cast iron skillet, and they're a lot better that way. That's all I know.
Hot dogs or brats?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's come to that.
What? Ray, what is a hot dog, a taco, or a sandwich?
There are so many things that are so important going on right now, and you want to try to decide whether
All right, I got a thing for you then. I got a thing for you right now.
Sandwich.
Sandwich. I got something for you. Sandwich.
So I've got a friend of mine emailed me about this. And one of the things I like about doing this with you guys is I'm about to show you something, and I'm going to guess neither of you've seen this. And I had a conversation a couple of days ago with somebody involved in the media. It's kind of a long story. A project that ended up on TV, who was like, have you seen my project? And I said, no. And he's like, how could you not have seen this in the field you're in? And I'm like, because I get PTSD at work and I go home and I don't need to wallow in it. I try to do other stuff, man. I live it. I walk the walk. I talk the talk. But when I have free time, I'm not watching law crap. So I'm pretty sure when I show this to you guys, you're going to be like, yeah, maybe I saw that. Maybe I didn't. But if you want to go back a couple months to what we'll call the incident at the Capitol, I'm going to try to go down the middle here politically. The incident at the Capitol, there were a couple Capitol police officers that died, and the autopsy was just released on Officer Brian Sicknick. And if I recall correctly, this is the guy that might have been hit with some items by the people who were at the Capitol. And it turns out that he got chemical sprayed. It turned out the coroner's opinion, as best I understand it, is that this guy died from strokes that he suffered after being at the Capitol, or unrelated to what happened at the Capitol. Have you guys seen this?
No.
So, look, you look at this guy's age. He's not an old dude. He's 43. He looks younger than that.
He looks much younger than that, but that's probably a rookie photo.
Picture, yeah.
The best photo they have of him. That happens a lot. It happens a lot in the service, where the last best picture they have of you is like a graduation photo.
Which good for him, because one of the things I hate is when somebody dies or somebody goes missing and they pull out a booking photo and you're like, really, this is the newspaper, you got to do a little bit better. I mean, good for them for showing, what might've been the best picture he had or a better picture. I don't have a problem with them doing that, even if it's a dated picture. He looks good there. He doesn't look old, but he also doesn't look like a dude who's going to die of a stroke at 42.
He doesn't.
But the coroner is saying he died of a stroke that was unrelated to what happened at the Capitol. Ray, are you gonna charge the people who pepper sprayed him with murder or anything at this point?
I have to be a prosecutor now. What, did I have a stroke?
Well, let's take your mind to that cold, dark place you never wanted to go to, or Pat, that cold, dark place you thought you'd never have to go.
I have to be a prosecutor, and it turns out that the guy died of something different I'm still trying him with aggravated battery. Aggravated battery to a police officer. And then I'm going to look at the judge and go, launch him.
So what if you're trying to stretch? What if, politically speaking, do you think they can make this into something bigger?
Well, the problem, and the thing is that is the beauty of our job. Okay. The beauty of our job is when they try to stretch, and then we're always like, oh, look at the video. Oh, look at the evidence. And the thing is, they look so horrible. I mean, it makes us look so good. You're in front of the jury. They're arguing for the most implausible thing ever. And you're like going, or reality. And the jury goes, that guy's right. As a matter of fact, we probably get sort of a boomerang effect because they reach. So it would be hard for me to flip places and go, well, I think I'm going to stretch here, knowing what the penalty is going to be. The penalty is going to be not guilty.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you would lose more ground by charging him and losing than you would by not charging him and saying, well, now the rioters got away with something here.
But how bad? Okay, I mean, that's fair, Pat. How bad am I going to get beat up by charging him with aggravated battery to a police officer who eventually died? But I just go aggravated battery to a police officer. I know I'm going to get, the guy died afterwards. I take out the element that he died. I just look at the jury and go, oh yeah, by the way, he died. It's not even an element of my case. And then when I go to sentencing, I go, judge, it's not an element, but you should know the guy died. That's the way you play it. You get maximum.
I don't think you can. I don't think they'll let you get into the fact that it mentioned in his evidence. What you would get into it is the hearsay exception that he's no longer available. Here's his statement because he's deceased. I think that's how you would get it in.
Pat is so dirty. Pat is so dirty. I can't get in that he's dead, but
I'm going to get in. He's dead.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows he's dead because he can't be here.
Ray, we'll assume Pat is thinking that way because he's seen that trick used against him, not because that's the kind of crap he used to pull when he was in the prosecutor's office, right? Let's get back.
That was in the prosecutor's office
2 lifetimes ago.
It seems like more than 2 lifetimes ago,
doesn't it?
Guys,
it really does.
I had no beard and hair then. Jesus.
Let's not lose sight of the fact, though, if you want to ruin people's lives, you can indict on this. You take this to the grand jury, you put the circumstantial case together. This is a 42-year-old who's healthy.
They're going to indict 100 out of 100 times.
Right. Because you're not putting on the autopsy. You're saying that this guy was healthy. He showed up to work minding his own business. He got assaulted by a bunch of idiots at the Capitol. And then when he was taken away for injuries from pepper spray, he died. Period. They're going to indict on that every freaking time, right?
Of course.
You have to think, though, there's nobody out there who will come in and say that he died as a result of the attack, because they certainly would have, they sent those results in the had somebody else come in and examine it when that was the initial finding by the coroner.
For sure. Oh, of course.
If you look at the coroner's broader statements, I mean, the one everybody's clinged on to is he can't find a link from those strokes to what happened. His broader statement was something like, I'm not saying his death wasn't caused by what happened there. The other thing you got going on now is, for all you know, this guy got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, right? I mean, he could have just had a COVID vaccine. There's all kinds of clotting issues that are very rare, but are documented going around right now. So who knows? I mean, as a defense attorney, if they charge these people with like a murder or reckless homicide, this is another case I'm not shying away from. I'm not worried about it. But on the other hand, who knows in political times what they're going to do on this. So
no, but the thought process is indict him on ag bad bodily harm or whatever to a PO, and indict him for the murder too. That makes a hell of a lot easier to get a plea on that ag bat, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is that I so desperately hate that move, but that's the move right there.
But you
The
do,
move
Ray,
is indict on murder, indict
time.
on Agbat, and then say, okay, I'll give you Agbat.
Right.
3 years, bye.
Yeah.
You saved yourself a lifetime.
And you wonder, you know, I am not taking a position on the impeachment hearings in any way, shape, or form. But the evidence came out there that he died from the blunt force trauma from a fire extinguisher. Maybe that shows you, I don't know, perhaps we shouldn't have had it in 18 seconds after the attack to get everything straight. Because it's on the record. It's on the record that this guy died as a result of, you know, it was factually accurate enough for Congress, which shouldn't shock anybody. That's just what it looked like. That's what it seemed like. There's a videotape of, you know, somebody throwing a fire extinguisher or whatever. You know, that's my 2 cents worth.
Anytime, you know, what we do, anytime, you know, they're trying to push it forward, there's a tactical advantage, right? I mean, we are on the short end of the information chain. So the one thing that doesn't help us is time. The amount of information we find out only because you guys have probably all had it too, where you pass a trial date on a case, you get a continuance for an unrelated reason. And then they're like, oh, here's a bunch of stuff 3 weeks later. And you're like, well, wait a minute. If we'd have gone to trial on time, I wouldn't have had any of this crap. And that's usually years later. So, you know, time is the greatest thing that it's 90% of what we do in court is try to control the timeline, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. Why are you continuing my case? Because it doesn't get better for them the longer we go. Right. It is what it is. So we got a couple other things we can talk about, boys. Ray, we should talk some Derek Chauvin trial. We should talk the death of this teenage girl in Columbus. What do you want to talk about?
You know, I thought a interesting thing to listen to would be, I know there's been some talk about what kind of sentence you guys think the judge is going to give
on the Chauvin trial.
And I'll just mention this, as far as this channel goes, I want to tell you that my accuracy in guessing judges' sentences is nearly perfect. Now, it's perfectly wrong, but it's near perfect. But these two guys guess what the judge does. Either one or the other guesses what the judge does every time. So that being said,
one of us
we're about to roll up. We're about to roll up. What's going to happen?
I don't know. Like we talked about last week, I didn't watch any of the trial. Obviously, I know what's going on. And, you know, you've heard there were different politicians who weren't super excited about a cry to action for one cause and were fairly animated about what to do if it was a not guilty. I've seen a lot of that. I haven't seen a lot of any reports on the forensic evidence, or I'm assuming they did not buy the car exhaust argument, clearly. I'm going to say, well, there's Jeremiah Osborne again. I like that cat. He's all right.
Do any of us know Jeremiah Osborne?
Ray? I don't know him by that name. Maybe it's somebody else, but glad to have you aboard, Jeremiah.
So Jeremiah is in at 10 to 20, and I'm going to not say anything because I have a little bit probably information I shouldn't, but Jeremiah's at 10 to 20. Like, let's be honest. I don't know if Jeremiah's a lawyer or not. That's a bit wide of a range for something that's not like a 100-year, right? Like if we're looking at 0 to 100 years, 10 years is all right. Pat, what do you within like? Go ahead.
He was guilty on second and all the lesser included, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we're guilty. Okay, just to be clear, there's 3 sets of charges. Second degree carries in that particular state 40. So that's the range. And then he was found guilty on every other case, regardless of what the theory was. All 3 of them were guilty, guilty, guilty.
I am going to say 27 came to mind.
And Ray?
Well, I have mine ready, but I want to hear. Well, I'll tell you what mine is.
Yeah, tell me yours. Yeah.
Mine is
8. So here's the thing. I caught a tweet that said something about there's already a recommendation on this, and I did 5 minutes of Googling, not licensed in Minnesota, but Minnesota appears to have a matrix like the federal court system. So to explain to anybody who's not done this, the federal court system has on the left side a class of offense, on the top your criminal history, and then you go down the left, across on the right, and it puts you in a box. And in the federal court system, that box, the range is oftentimes over 40 years. The range is less than 6 months. Minnesota has the same kind of matrix. And I looked at it, and based on my reading of this case, and I want to point out, I don't know if the Minnesota matrix is mandatory. I don't know if it's discretionary, but to tell you guys, the recommended sentence on their matrix and guidelines is 12 and a half.
I think that's probably what John Q. Public gets in a bar fight. But I think they're going to send this guy. I think he's gone.
But lack of criminal history.
Yeah, but Ray, the position of authority here can't be like you can't. I'm assuming that's an aggravating factor. You cannot, and apparently this guy has had a bunch of complaints against him, but you cannot overcome the idea that this is the ultimate position of authority, number one. And number two, you got an EMT there saying, get your knee off that guy, right?
Yeah,
right.
I think the fact that, the policeman's there to preserve disorder, I think I think the fact that the position of authority, the position of public trust, he's there to protect and serve, all that, I think he's going to get hammered.
I think that and I'm not gonna guess a number of years just because I looked at this stuff, but I think that one of the things that is not going to be forgotten here, despite these people being people in isolated courtrooms, is that Minnesota was on fire all of last year. Not just with George Floyd, when the killing happened in Kenosha. I mean, Minnesota is it's a fun, very educated, somewhat. I don't mean crazy in a bad way, but ignitable place. I don't know if you guys have ever spent time in the Twin Cities. It's an absolute blast there, but I don't think you can take away from the fact that if the people there in the Twin Cities think that they're going to be perceived as being racist or soft on police crime because they get a low verdict, they are going to go nuts. And I think that's going to be on the judge's mind. So, I don't know what discretion the judge has to go up, but I'm expecting if the judge has it all any discretion, it's happening, right?
My understanding is that you serve 2/3.
So Ray, but do you know, can he like in federal court, you go in and you argue for what's called a downward departure if you're trying to put yourself in a lower box?
I know that the prosecution is going to ask for an upward departure.
Okay.
But as I said, the other thing is I have the same handicap that Pat does. If it was in front of a judge that we regularly practice in front of, I would do a lot better at my bad guesses, and Pat would be 6 months plus or minus, because the thing is that you kind of know where they're going to go. But the thing is that don't know the judge, don't know his propensity. I'd like to think, and as I said, it really depends on the judge. Some judges don't care if the place gets burned down the next day. Other judges are like, I'm going to stop this place from being burned down. So we don't know who we have.
So let me ask you guys this, because this is the question that I've been asked, I don't know, every day since the verdict. And that is, or I wouldn't say it's a question, it's a statement more that comes out. Is this verdict a statement on more broadly on policing? Does this change anything? Is this going to change the way the cops operate? Are we going to see less police shootings? Like what is different in the future as a result of this finding of guilty from your guys' perspective?
I don't know that it's going to have an impact on shootings because, like we talked about last week, I think the majority of shootings happen so fast that you can't, the impact of the Chauvin and Floyd thing is not going to be able to enter into your mind as part of your analysis to shoot, no shoot. I think it might have an impact on foot chases. I think it might have an impact on submission holds. I think it might have an impact on the physical stuff where it's not so millisecond time critical to, it's not a digital, it's on or it's off type of decision. I think the physical part of it, I think it might.
Yeah. And I think we watched the full video, and the thing that was most disturbing to me, and if there's going to be a lasting impact, this is what I think it's going to be, because I don't think this verdict changes anything. You got a video of some very egregious conduct that is easily distinguishable from a lot of other cases. But the lasting impact I wanted to have is the officer gets a call that a man is trying to pass a fake 20. Now, I'm sure in my life I've handed up a fake bill to somebody. I don't know that I've tried to do it, but he knows nothing about the mental state of this guy. He walks into that Quickie Mart and the attendant just holds up the bill. I don't know that the cop knows that guy, trusts that guy, has any reason to believe that that guy is an honest person, has any reason to believe that he got that bill in a way that was intentionally dishonest. And he goes from there to thinking he has to apprehend Floyd immediately to thinking he has to put him kind of in a physical hold for a non-violent, at best probable cause of what might be a fairly low level crime. Like, do we really need to put our hands on people for this stuff? That's, what you're saying.
I think it would make things, the responses more proportionate to the harm trying to be stopped or the harm that was supposed to have been perpetrated. But I don't see that happening. I mean, we all know, we've seen enough out of the bazillions of years we've been doing this. There's certain personalities out there that they're right no matter what, and that's just how it's going to be. And they know better than anybody who's any of the talking heads. They know better than us. They know better than any of their policies. The way they do things is right, and that's never going to change. Maybe some of the young kids coming up are gonna, they're going to get taught differently. It's like football. They teach tackling different now than they did when I did it. Supposedly safer, but it's different. I don't know. Maybe it has an impact in the academies. Maybe it has an impact on the new guys coming up. But a lot of the guys out there right now, no shot it changes anything.
I think you've also got to that point, a bit of a roadblock. If you're a cop in Illinois, you're looking at people going, well, I wouldn't have done that. Chokeholds are illegal in Illinois. We've already got a law preventing that. Of course, we couldn't have done that here. So, there's already an element of departments that are kind of washing their hands of the whole thing just because of the laws. But honestly, I think if there's a bigger pushback, the more global result of this that's probably not going to be as seen is you're going to see cops, police departments behind the scenes pushing back more on cameras. That's what I think you're going to see. And I know that wasn't necessarily, their camera, but we've all gone through this before. You've got every police department has a policy that says your camera needs to be working or needs to be documented. Your audio needs to be working. And how often do we not get full video? Or how often does a video go out on a car and they just don't replace it till they get another car? Or how often do you get a cop who's turning his audio on and off in the middle of a stop and he shouldn't? I mean, that's what I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a whole new round of squad cars come out in 10 years that don't have video.
I disagree. I think that's in the rear. I think that's in the rear view mirror.
Ray,
here's why I think it is.
If it's a question,
I remember back when I was a kid, and I both of you do too. You would get a video and it's running around normally. And then right when we get to a part that's going to be super critical, all of a sudden the video doesn't work or the audio doesn't work, but you can tell from the video that there's a heated argument going on. Or, there was just all these bad, just Keystone Cop sort of things happening. But they happened less and less and less. And we've gotten more and more cameras, and the cameras are better and better. So I think we're moving out of the the dark ages and we're moving to an area where when a person doesn't have a camera, I think that when you get your younger jurors in there and a person's like, yeah, my camera didn't work. I think the younger jurors are going to be brutal on that guy. No picture didn't happen, sort of thing.
Yeah.
As far as the defendant goes.
And I've made that argument to juries when, you know, every 12-year-old with a BMX bike or a skateboard has a GoPro. You know, everybody's got a videotape of their steak when it gets delivered at the restaurant. You're going to tell me somebody who has to collect evidence, who's the essence of their job is to prove a case one way or another, can't afford decent cameras?
And Ray, I mean, obviously you're both right, and I agree with you, but you don't see the police unions behind the stage trying to push.
I think that the problem is, and I mean, I can see the desire to want to do that. I can understand the will to try to want to do that. But the problem is that I just think the weight of technology and the weight of the way we live our life. I mean, anywhere, all the way from TikTok to all the different video interfaces that we have in life. I just think that I think that ship sailed, and the people who try to make those kind of plays, it's going to look more and more ham-handed, and they're going to be punished for it because people are going to be like, they're going to roll their eyes, right?
That's a good point, but I got two counters to that. One, if I'm the police, the way I'm fighting this is as a privacy matter through my collective bargaining agreement, and I'm also trying to push through a jury instruction. We know the jury instruction doesn't mean anything, but if I'm them, I'm trying to push a jury instruction through that says just because it's not on video doesn't mean it didn't happen. But you're looking at the current increase in cameras and saying this is the future. I'm looking at the current increase in cameras and saying maybe not your kids, maybe not my kid, but his kid might think he lives in a police state and it might not be comfortable with him. And you can see that pendulum swing the entire other direction as far as the use of cameras by government. I don't know if you guys saw that report that came out today that the U.S. Postal Service is doing surveillance through social media. I think there's a potential in the future for a huge amount of backlash for, you know, my kid's 3, who may grow up one day and say, there's not a day of my life that hasn't been documented by the government somewhere, and I don't want to live like this. So
yeah, but they're more concerned. They're more concerned with actually documenting it than somebody else documenting it. It's a whole mindset. I mean, you and I have seen it go from, you know, whatever happened at a party stayed at a party, and if something bad happened, it was 15 different versions. Now these kids are taping everything because it's hilarious and they want to post it. They're doing it. I don't know that they're going to be offended by it being done to them. I hope like hell they are. I really do. And I think I've explained it to my kids how intrusive that is. But I don't know that they I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right.
I just see so again, just my experience as a dad. I'm not taking pictures of my kid and putting them on Instagram every day. Like, I don't want him to think life is a stage. I don't want him to think every time he does something funny, this isn't like, you know, my wife can do what she wants. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not being critical. This is just how I'm trying to live. I can see these kids who've grown up, you know, who've had Instagram accounts since they were babies, who are constantly, their parents are putting them on Instagram. I could see them getting to the point where they're parents and their kids kind of pushing back on what they've been doing. Like, I could see their kids going the other way. I mean, isn't that kind of how it works? Like, we do things until it becomes too much, then we swing it back the other way. And that's, and maybe I'm looking like 40 years out. I don't know. But, you know, when it comes to cameras, you know, you guys are like me, you're scared to death already just because you know the amount of cameras that are out there. And, you know, you got government who's driving through parking lots and recording, you know, license plate numbers every day. And they've got cameras on the street and they're taking license plates and they're basically documenting when you're going to church, when you're going to the doctor. But I think that, you know, while the kids now may see that as normal, I don't know if that's going to be that way in the future because it's only going to get worse or more prolific. Anyhow.
I hope so, because it is terrifying. In the Toledo thing was a perfect example. They had 15 angles of
yeah,
those kids just walking down the street. Forget.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
before anything happened, they had pictures of the kids.
I mean, just the freaking Ring doorbells. I bet it would be hard to walk from one end of my street to the other without being
not be on camera several times.
Being on camera more than not.
It's funny you say that. I've got an attempted murder case that maybe a year ago I got into, and it was in Crystal Lake. And there's obviously, because just like we're talking, somebody takes a video of it, like a cell phone video of what's going on. Anyhow, we get the discovery because we're the second or third lawyers in. And I'm like, man, how can there be not one? There's a huge melee in front of a house. How is there not one video of this? How's there not a video of my client's car coming and going so they can pin a top? No videos, right? Not a video anywhere. So we drive out there, and I think I counted like the potential 14 cameras in like a 3 or 4 block. I mean, they drove by a bar. They drove by a whole road, like down a little alleyway of garages. And, you know, like one of the garages, it has a huge old school CCTV camera right on the side. And was it pointed at my guy? I don't know. But the cops didn't pull one of those cameras from anybody. So we're already living in that world.
They figured out what happened, Matt. They don't need to complicate things with facts and evidence.
Once they figured it out, what are the extra pictures for?
It's a duplication of efforts. We already know what happened.
Sometimes facts ruin a really, really, really good story, right?
They do. And sometimes videos do too, as I found out.
So LeBron James tweeted about.
Wait a minute, Ray. We got a video we're gonna watch. Go ahead with LeBron.
Okay. Well, the thing is that he tweeted about the 16-year-old girl who was shot by the police, and then
that's the video we're gonna watch. Have you seen it?
He withdrew the tweet. I think there's two different there. Well, the story here is that a young lady was stabbing some people, and a police officer shot her to stop her from stabbing them. Now that's the story that I've heard. And that's a little different from you've been handcuffed and and somebody is going to put their knee on your neck. But LeBron was inferring that they're the same kind of case. But then once he thought about it, I think he withdrew that because I think they are different.
So Ray, I'm picking up various media things, but I think LeBron's tweet was a picture of one of the cops who was out at the scene after this happened.
And he was like, "You're next."
But somebody else, and I'm being careful the way I say this because I'm not saying any of this is all connected. Somebody else on Twitter had posted a video of those officers chanting like "Blue Lives Matter" or making some kind of what could be construed as insensitive statements, while basically they're scraping this dead girl off the pavement.
Right.
So I don't know if those all went together, but I saw LeBron did put that up and then he pulled it down.
I anybody who knows me knows I am not going to give LeBron the benefit of the doubt on anything. All right. Let alone whether or not he should even have the number 2 or 3.
What happened between you and LeBron? You can tell us.
I like that Pat's hatred for LeBron as a player spreads to everything. I don't like the guy on the court. He thinks he's the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. So if LeBron says a hot dog is a sandwich, I'm a hot dog is a taco.
I'm going taco. I'm firmly in the sandwich camp. If Bron comes out and says taco or sandwich, I'm going taco. But the timing of it was, I think he heard that there had been another African-American youth killed by the police.
Right.
I don't think he saw the video. I don't think he heard the facts. And what he was saying is, it was just after the Chauvin verdict, you're next. They're going to ring you up in court next.
Exactly.
And then I think when the facts came out, he's like, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't the hill to die on.
What he said is that he said that his tweet was being used to propagate hate. So that is why he withdrew it. But I have not seen the video. And from what I understand, some of these images or audio might upset or disturb some people.
And I'm going to play this video in a second. And I just want to be like, but don't we want LeBron to delete that? If LeBron, I mean, look,
I think that was of course that was a good move on his point, because I can only feel for LeBron because I quite frequently say something and then have to retract it when I find out that I had no idea what I was talking about. That's very common for me. So the idea is that I felt like a oneness with LeBron, like, oh, okay, I get it. I get what you did there. Yeah.
So, Ray, I watched this video. What happened? We're going to watch the video of the police interaction with this girl in Columbus. It happens right after the Chauvin verdict. And what happened is, I think the police let the press into a room, showed them the body cam video within a couple of hours of the shooting. It's the absolute opposite of the Adam Toledo or Jason Van Dyke situation where they sat on it and they spun it.
We don't have a produced video? Is that what you're saying?
We don't have a produced video. We didn't have them wait on it. They came right out. They said, here are the goods. But I think what they tried to do is show it on a screen in a press room. So what we have is somebody who recorded it with their phone. I kind of showed this to Pat right before we started. Why don't you give us your take on what you've heard from media first and tell us what you're expecting to see before we show this?
Well, what I'm expecting to see is that a young lady is attacking somebody with a knife, and an officer is going to shoot her because she's attacking somebody else. That's what I expect to see.
So I'll give you my take after we watch it. My take changed after I saw the video. I had not seen the whole video. I had seen only bits and pieces and still shots. In some of the still shots, I can understand the outrage with some of the still shots that are being posted. If it is shown a still shot maybe a third of a second later, I think perhaps some of the outrage would have gone to different areas.
So Pat, before we do this, why don't you tell us what you expected to see prior to seeing the video? What did you know prior to this? What do you think you were going to see?
What I had seen was a still shot, and it was they had the little red or yellow circle around the girl's hand, and she had a knife in her hand. And it doesn't look like a little pocket knife or something. You could end somebody with this knife, I think. What I saw was it down by her hip. And I thought to myself, okay, well, this isn't something that was, and I'm only looking at still shots. I thought to myself, well, maybe this is something that wasn't so life-threateningly critical, that she was coming at this girl. And maybe this is the point where, a non-lethal shot might have been the better option. Shoot her in the hip, shoot her in the leg, drop her, but don't kill her. I watched the video, and watch the video and I'll tell you how my opinion changed after.
And Ray, just so you know, this video is going to show everything in real time. It happens bang, bang, bang. And then they're going to roll into a slowed down. Hold on a second. I'm going to unscreen share to make sure I have the video thing set. They're going to show a kind of a slowed down version after that. So here we go without further ado. And we are on it. Can you guys see the screen?
It's very small.
Is it for real? Is it very small?
Yeah, it's very skinny.
Very small.
Can you bigger it?
Hold on a second.
Bigger it is that's the word that's the term I would have used.
Bigly.
Had I thought about it, it should be bigly.
The screen needs to be bigly.
The screenshot right there was the video of us on YouTube. Is that better?
That is better.
Yes, sir.
Right.
I feel like I'm contributing to this show by telling you that's better.
All right, pay attention right here. We go.
I'm ready.
Hey. What's going on? What's going on? Hey, get down.
That kicks her square in the face. I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Let me unscreen share. So okay. Ray, whoa, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the problem is that, I mean, it looked to me like he was saving somebody's life, because that lady looked like she was about to let loose with a body shot with a knife in her hand.
It was a hell of a job of shooting, wasn't it? I mean, and all that.
Well, the problem that I have is that it's so hard to give an opinion, and the reason it's so hard to give an opinion is that, as you and I know, I've been criticized for being racist on our other YouTube where we watch videos.
Yeah.
And the problem is that on the YouTube video where I was accused of being racist, I was being the exact opposite of being racist. I was entirely offended by the system treating a young black man very poorly just because they could. And I was making light of it because I was in the idea that I was trying to transmit through the YouTubes was that this is something that happens all the time, and it was super offensive. But I tried to do that through sort of a sarcasm with respect to the video.
Hold on a second. I got to tell you what you're talking about. We watched a video where an African-American kid got pulled over for speeding.
Right.
The cops were mad at him from the jump, and they start searching his car for speeding and all kinds of stuff. And you make the comment like, gee, Matt, I wonder why they're searching his car. Right. Something like that.
Exactly. And then I was like, perhaps they'll find more evidence of speeding.
Right.
Because I just think it's so offensive that they're digging around through this poor young kid's stuff. And I mean, mercilessly. At the end of the video is a tragedy at the end of the video, believe it or not, and you'll have to go find it, folks. Maybe we'll put a link right here where it is. But at the end of the video, the officer crawls onto the hood of the guy's car. He takes a drug kit and he tests what appears to be bird poop on the car. He shakes the bird poop. It doesn't turn the right color, but he declares that the bird poop is drugs. And when he does that, I feel like that is all the proof you need, ladies and gentlemen. It's you, if you're a young black man in this particular state or county, the opportunity or the chances of you getting just railroaded is near 100%. And then I believe I ended the video by saying something like, well, did we just see this officer's last day? Because I just thought, this is just horrible. Then when we were talking about the Toledo case, I felt like the shooting was justified because the officer was declaring drop the gun, thought he saw a gun, and it was a split-second situation. And then in this situation, another African-American person gets killed, and I seem to be taking the police officer's side, even though I'm taking the side that I believe that there's pretty good support for the actions that the officer took. Now, I mean, the viewing audience doesn't know this, but that's not my impression of the way the world works. I think that the world works against people who are poorer or the people who are minorities. And I think it works against them all the time. And I think the police are often the agents that do that.
So Ray, what did you see
these videos? I'm looking like it appears that I am Blue Lives Mattering the whole thing. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's really,
So Ray,
I'm just trying to be honest about what I see. I see a justified shooting there, and I don't like justified shootings.
Why? So in light of that, in light of the fact that you think this, a 16-year-old Afro-American girl, the system stacked against her, she's picked on probably abnormally by the cops. What did you see in this specific video that has you saying that this is justified actions by the cop?
Well, first of all, it looks like she's about to administer lethal force to somebody. Secondly, she's so far away that there's not any way. I can't tackle her. I can't move her. She's not responding to the officer yelling. And she's just about to deal what looks like a lethal attack on somebody. I don't think that I think the officer's in a box. I don't think there's anything he can do. I think he's stuck.
So did you I don't know if you caught this, but did you see she swings the knife at the girl on the ground first?
Oh, yeah. I saw that part. Yeah.
And I'm with Pat. I didn't catch that guy kicking that girl in the head until we just watched it that last time.
He kicked the hell. I didn't see that either. And I mean, her head snapped back.
So Pat,
he kicked the hell out of her.
You had originally seen the still. There's a still where before she gets the knife up, she's kind of got it down by her hip. And you thought, ooh, this is a problem. Now we've got Max here in the YouTube comments who's saying that the cop could have, and I'm just going to kind of throw this out there, tasered her, tackled her, got in the middle of it, taking an opportunity to prevent anyone, try to keep her from dying. What do you, having now seen the video, think of, Max's suggested alternatives to the shooting?
Well, the thing is that I agree with Max with respect to taser if that was available. But the problem is that, I disagree. I think there's too much distance there. If you run to try to tackle her, she's gonna stab her twice, 3 or 4 times in her side, and as I said, those are vital. Getting stabbed in the chest or in the abdomen, those are not. You may not survive those.
Pat, what do you think?
I think in the girl that was on the ground that got kicked in the head, I think in that altercation, the proximity that the cop was to that, yeah, absolutely. He could have tackled, tased. There's a lot of things he could have done there. And I thought based upon the distance that he was when the knife was down low, when I first saw the couple of stills, yeah, I think he could have done something else. But when she brought it up and that girl had her arms up, I don't think he was close enough to tackle or tase. And I don't know the distance on the taser unit he has, but I don't know that he had any other choice, because if that girl gets stabbed in the face or the throat, or like Ray said, the chest, it could be over. And this girl had already shown zero problems with swinging and attempting to stab somebody already in the presence of the officer. The officer had no reason to think that she was going to do anything but, and anybody who knows me, just like LeBron, the last people I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to are the police. But I don't know that he had any other choice, and it sucks. Cause again, what I'm saying from a legal standpoint doesn't come close to masking the tragedy of another, Adam Toledo was 13. This girl's 16. It sucks. I don't know that you can charge the cop or prosecute the cop, because I don't know that he had a lot of choice.
Well, the problem is that it's the future. That cop's career, and I'm not saying that the cop's career is all important, but the problem is once that you've been involved in that sort of thing, he's done. His name's going to be put all over the place. There's going to be a bunch of arguments about what he could, or they're going to second guess this guy.
That guy's going to spend the rest of his career filing traffic tickets, and he's going to be okay doing it because he's probably got, issues he's struggling with now. I don't think he wanted to.
No, of course he went
on that day trying to shoot somebody. But I think there's two things that really complicate this case, compared to Toledo. And one is, having personally witnessed somebody being tasered by the police, there's an issue with the taser that a lot of people don't realize, and that is when they shoot the little things, if those little prongs get caught in your shirt and not in your skin, your shirt has to then make contact with your skin before the taser works. So it's like the Rodney King thing, who had been tasered but was still not acting tasered. I actually saw a guy get tasered where one of those things went in his back, the other hit his shirt, and he ran another 20 feet before that barb made contact with his back and shot the electric through and took him down. So tasers, unfortunately, I don't think are always 100%. And I hate them anyways. Not that I like shooting. But another thing that as far as I know, cops are trained on, which is you've got a potential stabbing going on here. You've got an assault on a lady on her feet here. I believe the practice of the police, and I don't think this is a terrible way to train people, is to not get involved at that point. Because if you start picking fight number one and now you're rolling around with two people in the grass, you know, who knows who's going to jump on you unless you've got backup. So you've got an unsecure scene, which I think kind of contributes to the problem. I don't like, I'm never, ever going to be okay watching these videos, especially young kids getting killed. But I think you have a hard time, even if you try to indict this one, even if you don't put on, you know, a full defense, I don't think this one makes it past grand jury. Just because everything was so bam, bam, and there was so much chaos going on around the cop. I don't know, you know, I'm pretty critical of the police. I think we need a different type of person. I think we need a different type of training. This is one of those situations that is just, I think, really tough to prepare for. I don't know what you do. And like you guys have said, there's as much as we expect police to not kill people, we don't expect to allow police to watch somebody else kill somebody. Like there's an expectation that the police will jump in to prevent humans harming humans. So I don't know, man, this whole thing to me is just, Toledo was tragedy. This poor girl sounds like had a really rough life, which is tragedy. I'm sure this was a really stressful day for her. I don't know, you know, what to make of this other than I'm not confident that even if you try to charge this guy, it's going anywhere. And I
have no idea what's causing the fight or anything else. I haven't heard any of that.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest with you, from what little I know about police bargaining agreements, if they're a union shop, which I'd imagine they are, it's a fairly big town. I don't know that you're going to even get to a termination proceeding from getting this guy off the force based on that. I don't think you're going to get that far. So I don't even think you can get this cop kicked off if that's something you truly wanted to do.
I don't know that they did, because it just, in the speed in which they released that to the press, I think the police department, the Columbus Police Department, is fairly confident in his actions.
Right. When they think they're right, you're going to get the video right away. When they think they're wrong, you're going to get an edited video 3 weeks lager. That's just the way. That's the way that goes.
You're going to get the Jason Van Dyke video.
I think that we're going to veer away from that. I think we're going to start to see more and more interaction videos, and I think it's going to have an impact on the way that the police interact with people. And maybe it should.
If one thing, it proves, you know, like even the Adam Toledo, I'm not going to pick sides on these, but I've said forever that I think policing is literally the hardest job in the world, because you're taking the strictly theoretical or philosophical side of the law and the Constitution, all these really kind of abstract things. And you're not the thin blue line that separates them from us. You're the thin blue line that watches these things kind of play out in real time. And you've got to make really fast, real-time decisions that have huge implications. But having said that, I think that means we need to pay police more, pull them from a completely different pool of people. I mean, that should be probably the most sought-after job in public service. But it's, you know.
Oh, come on, Matt. I've said this 50 times.
What?
It's not going to be the most sought after job. It's just so hard.
I didn't say that. It should.
No, I can't even imagine. You go to one house and somebody's daughters killed themselves, and you have to see that. You go to the next house and somebody got drunk and beat up their spouse.
But this is the next house. The job should pay well enough that the people who are saying I'm getting into that are people with a crazy amount of training, people who've got backgrounds as social workers or teachers, or, you know, people are more.
It's just a super hard job. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that my job's the super hard job. My job is not the super hard job. My job's Monday morning quarterbacking you know, you do something, I say, yeah, you could have done it a different way.
But I think Pat said this almost a year ago. Pat's probably said it a million times and also argued it in court a million times. But I'm going to credit Pat with having said this, to my knowledge, first. Just because it's a super hard job or these are super complicated rules or super difficult rules doesn't mean we're lowering burdens and doesn't mean we're compromising rights, right? That's where it gets hard. Just because this is a hard job doesn't mean we're lowering the standards and saying, okay, you know, probable cause is a lowered standard because it's difficult to figure out, or you have less Fourth Amendment rights because they're too difficult to figure out. I mean, the reality is we need to raise the bar in policing to meet the demands of the job, which are super high. And your average local police department wants to hire a guy that's already been trained on somebody else's dime, that they don't really care oftentimes how much experience they have or what kind of problems they've been in. And you guys have seen this, the same terrible cops bouncing around from department to department. Some of them, and I'm thinking right now of a guy who was at a local police department, ended up going to a town called Bull Valley. Their DUIs jumped like 4 million %. I won't name names, but some of these people just circulate around and everybody knows they're terrible, but they have no problem getting hired on everywhere because they're, you know, meeting whatever metrics the police are looking for, which I think are different than the metrics they should be looking at. So that's my take on police. I mean, everybody thinks I'm anti-police. I'm not. I'm for the police, but I'm for a different sort of flavor of the police than what we have right now. Pat, you look like you're about to say
Pat looked like you were going to say something. I was watching. I was like, he's going to say something here.
I keep going back to last week where we were talking about cameras, and Jeremiah hit it on the head, man. If you ain't on tape, you ain't getting paid. If your camera's not rolling, you're not getting paid. I think that would solve so much, but I mean, again, you were right, Matt. The unions would never put up with it.
Right.
But man, there'd be a lot less guesswork and a lot less BS.
As I said, and I mean, I don't want to belabor the point. I just don't think that idea survives. I don't think it does. Because I think as you go into the future, people are going to be like, okay, well, let's look at the video. And then if you explain that there's not a video, it's held against you.
I don't know. Well, the statute is written now that everybody needs to have cameras is the same as the state police statute. There's no sanction. There's no penalty. You could theoretically lose money. Okay, but are you saving money because you're not putting in?
I think that we're still in the middle. We're still in the where it turns over. It wasn't so far. It wasn't so long ago that we really saw some real shenanigans with videos.
It's still going on, right?
No, but that's what I was going to say. We still see some of it. Like, I mean, there was a time where the sheriff's department was like, well, we lost a contract with our video provider, so none of their cars had videos for, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, because the GoPro is not available. Go to Best Buy, buy a dozen GoPros. There you go. Problem solved.
Just drop them on the desk.
This is maybe contrary to the point I made earlier, but you know what I've seen a lot less of the last 5 or 6 years? In the old days, you'd get a cop who would pull somebody over for a DUI, and then they're doing the field sobriety test over there. Or
right.
You know, there's and maybe it's because of Cladis, or maybe who knows what it is, but there's a lot less of that kind of shenanigans.
There is. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, you remember the old days? And
I remember when they'd be like this. The police car is facing the subject car in front of us that we just pulled over.
Right.
And they're going to say, hey, why don't you go over on the sidewalk?
Why don't you come into this farm field to do these field sobriety tests over here, this poorly lit farm field? That stuff doesn't happen as much.
We're just talking. We'll talk over here.
We'll talk over here.
Just want to see where you're at. You know, someday we're going to be able to play one of that guy's videos. We should live narrate that just so the people can watch us have heart attacks.
I'll be watching one this weekend in preparation.
Really quick. Let's get off the topic and talk about something fun really quick. Monday, Pat, this is kind of like a where are we now 1 year later. Monday, Pat, myself, one other person, and maybe one other person all said we were ready for a jury trial. this was after the judge told us all on Friday they could do multiple jury trials. And Pat, why don't you tell the ladies and gentlemen at home what happened?
I did mine. I started picking it. The other fellows, I think, Ray, were you? Matt, I know you had one.
I didn't. No, I didn't have one. I didn't have one.
Matt and I think my case was older by what, 6 months, something like that.
Whatever.
So I went. They were going to do 2. They're set up to do 2. That's what they say.
No, they're not.
I think there was.
I was told that at pretrial today too. By the way, I was told we can do 2 and we're going to do 2.
Yeah,
that's what I was told.
Well, I have 2. My office has 2. We're going to try 2, and we're going to put that. We'll hold them to it, I guess. But Matt's got bumped.
I didn't even get to say. I didn't even get to ask. It was like, "Are you ready?" Yes, I'm ready. I go to the bathroom. I come back, and it's like, "You're not having a trial today." Like,
no, I actually went out
on Friday.
I actually went out and got nice.
It's for the dog. It's a bong, but it's a chew toy.
I was just going to say, Ray, how does he pull the slider without opposable thumbs?
So Pat, the long and short of it.
I'm sorry, I was fascinated by the joint dog toy. So I was in the courtroom. I was told, all right, let's go. We're going to go. Where is Mr. Hyduk and another guy that I used to work with? Yeah, Bob. Where are they? I said, they're outside. We were just waiting. And I was one went out and told Matt and Bob that, yep, you guys aren't going to go.
That's dog treats.
And they didn't. You guys didn't even have a chance to ask to go in front of me or anything else. It was just, okay, Friday, be here Monday. We're going to do 2. I think it was me, you, and then Bob in the age of the cases. And then I don't know, was it a felony or another one that was going to go? I don't think the other one ended up going. So we did one.
Going back to June. When we both answered ready on the very first day, yours went, mine got continued jury selection. Is the COVID jury still the nightmare it was 9 months ago?
It is 75 to 80% of the nightmare. It's not quite as bad. It's not quite as theater in the round, but there's still, and I've only done them. This is my 3rd or 4th, and I've only done them in the one courtroom, because the second room that they have set up has never actually.
You're doing them in 204, right?
204. The second room that they have set up has never actually hosted one other than the one that you started, and then it was just a nightmare.
If the person says that they're concerned about COVID, is the judge just knocking them off?
I asked that question specifically of all 3 panels, and nobody was concerned. And they were, in fact, some of them looked disgusted that I was even thinking about asking them if they were concerned about COVID.
Don't you think that's self-selecting? Like, the people who are that worried about it aren't coming to jury selection?
Right, and we don't know who's not showing up.
And Ray, the people who are there, in spite of it, those are your people that want to be on a jury. You know?
Oh, yeah.
They certainly did. But yeah, they're more put together in one field of vision as opposed to theater in the round.
Yeah.
But they're still fairly separated from the witness. And it's just that I'm sitting next to the prosecutor. It's instead of 2 tables, it's just like 3 courtroom tables put together. I'm sitting next to the prosecutor. My client's on the other side. We're kind of at a 90-degree angle from where the judge is. The witness chair or the witness stand is across from us, and the podium is behind the witness stand, but in front of the bench. So it sucks. I hate it, but we're going to do it all over again.
But on the other hand, because people are going to say, well, why would Pat go to trial? There's cases that you're going to take in this environment for a lot of reasons and test things out, or see if you can poke some holes, or see if you can raise some objections. I mean, occasionally you got to throw the long ball just so they know you can throw it, but also because you want to, maybe you connect, right? And I mean,
they're not giving us, unlike most counties, McHenry County is not just eager and able to do jury trials. They're pushing jury trials. They are making us try cases in this setting when the other side of the courtroom doesn't have it, or the courthouse doesn't have anybody in it, because they're concerned about spreading the virus, where apparently we're immune on the criminal side. So it's not a question of, hey, I want to or I have to. Sometimes we're marching at the point of a bayonet to try cases in this god awful configuration, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I figured we got to be out of this soon.
2 weeks. Just to flatten the curve.
Well, I don't think it's not the joke that, when we first started, they were like, well, we got to flatten the curve. Let's see where we are in 2 weeks. You're like, okay. But the thing is that as far as the vaccinations go, I think that we're probably at the point where we're going to hit a peak and then it's just going to fall right off. And I think at that point, you're going to get people screaming that they don't want to wear a mask anymore. And you're going to get your new infections go down to very low levels. And I think we're going to be done.
I think we're a ways away from that, because
until the next pandemic.
There's a lot of Michigan, God bless Governor Whitmer, which was, our version of Florida or Ohio from Waddle and Sylvie, but Michigan is almost at its highest rate of infection throughout the whole pandemic after vaccines have started.
Well, I know, but I think that that's the nature of the graft is that when it finally hits the top, once it turns, it falls. I mean, it just falls right out the back, because I think you lose all the pressure. You don't have availability of people who aren't vaccinated. You have people taking taking some measures. And I think that's what causes it to fall off at the end. We've all seen the graphs, how they look when they end. I think that it falls off. And that's why I think that we're probably out of this by fall.
Okay. New round of predictions next week.
New round of predictions. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into this now, but Ray, nobody under 16 can get the vaccine right now. So a lot of the schools that tried to open last week or 2 weeks ago are already closing again. And I'm not going to make any political statements about the vaccine. I got my vaccine. You choose to do what you want to do. But there's a certain segment of the population that's not getting vaccine. And I've read some stuff that the number of people not getting the vaccine is high enough that we don't hit herd immunity for way out there. So, but you got to figure the under 16 population, which is not going to socially distance itself at schools or extracurriculars or whatever. There's no vaccine for them. I mean, that's a huge part of the population.
Well, I think that a number of them have had it also.
That's true. And we hit herd immunity so what I saw was we need to get over like 50% fully vaccinated or people who can't get reinfected. And the other thing I read last week was they're not saying that the virus is necessarily going to work beyond like 6 months or whatever.
The
vaccine. It's possible we're all going to be in a cycle where we're getting revaccinated. And this is one of those things where none of us know until we get there. So
right.
I think.
And my fingers are crossed that my prediction's right.
I don't know that you can you get herd immunity when you can continually get reinfected? If your antibodies are only good for 90 days.
The thing you have to remember is that to run the numbers, you have to have there's a math to it. And what I mean by that is that if everybody can possibly be infected, and you have a source, and then he does 1, 2, 2, 4, 4, whatever, exponential, okay? The problem is that when you take that part of the population, when you take away part of the population, you make that exponential growth very, very hard to do. And that's what I'm talking about. It becomes more and more difficult for it to go sky, and makes it more likely to go.
Yeah. And the reality is when we started this, the goal was to keep it manageable so that hospitals could deal with it. And I don't want to speak to Florida or Texas or anywhere else, but I think in Illinois, we really did that. The issue now is, how long do we want to live like this? We either got to kill it off, or we got to figure out a way to survive, one of the two, instead of this herky jerky up a level, down a level, up a level. And I read not long ago that our ICU beds are, we're getting near the threshold on available ICU beds. So we might get slapped back into what the next level is soon. I don't know. I got my vaccine. I'll still wear my mask or whatever, but man, I don't want to.
You're so compliant, Matt.
I don't want to have another summer. Like, I know, Ray, look, everybody, I walk into Ray's office. Ray, do I take my mask off? No,
you do not.
I don't take my mask off. So,
I'm surprised that you're not wearing your mask now, Matt. Nice. You see, the thing is, I never take mine off because
there you go.
I'm a cowboy.
When a stagecoach is going to come through that you got to knock off. I know you, Flavin.
You never know when that train is going to come in.
Guys,
and you want to have it right there.
I think we have reached the end of our YouTube time. We don't want to go too long and get banned on YouTube like we have already from Ray's account or from our other videos.
As it turns out, YouTube followers, we have been banned in several accounts. We didn't want to tell you that, but
so thanks for everybody for following along, and hopefully next week is a slower news week because these last two have been bonkers.
They have.
Bye,
everybody.